So we learned the basics of XHTML. You've learned how to create that first web page with the right structure that I showed you before. And I just want to talk about a few other things you're going to see in the book as you go through chapters 1 and 2, and a few things to be aware of. The first is when you write your XHTML, some of you may notice that if you put a carriage return in your code, just like I've done, it doesn't show it here down here at the bottom. So how do we put a carriage return in? Normally you would do something like this. You put the line break tag in there. However, you may recall in XML when we have a tag, we have to close that tag. But if a tag is not going to have any content in it, the proper way to close it is going to be like this. You're going to put that / in right inside the tag at the end, and that tells the browser that it can close the tag. It's opening and closing the tag all in one declaration, so you don't have to do BR and then close the BR. In fact, in most browsers, that probably wouldn't do what you want to do anyway. So again, and so far this, and there's one other one that we might look at. HR is another one that you might use. That puts the horizontal rule in. Same thing, you open and close it all in one declaration. So something else I need to show you, likewise, just like the putting carriage returns doesn't do anything, look what happens when I put spaces in. Nothing happens. I'm not seeing spaces down here when the browser renders it. So we have to use special characters. I'll show you another example. I put the word hi in brackets like that. Maybe I want to display that. This isn't a tag. I'm just, that's what I want to show. So if that happens, if you wanted to show that, you would have to use a special character. So in HTML, we would do something like this. So this is for less than and greater than. And I'll put a space in here so it's easier to see that. So there's our less than symbol, there's our greater than symbol. There's a whole list of these in your book, but another useful one is Nbsp, which is a blank space. So your browser is always going to ignore extra blank spaces, so you could do this to add a bunch of spaces if you wanted to. But in these first few assignments, we're not really worried about what it looks like, so there should be really no reason to add blank spaces. But if you needed to, for some reason, to add an extra space, you could do that, or a dash or something like that. There's codes for all that stuff. Even things like copyright, I think it's just ampersand copy gives you the copyright symbol. Okay, so the other thing I want you to be aware of is block level and inline level elements. So notice if I put the I tag in here, which by the way I prefer if you use the EM tag, not the I tag, but I put the EM tag, it affects the markup inline. So it's all inline. It doesn't put a line feed or anything. It just, it says, okay, I'm just going to make that italicized. And likewise, if I use strong up here, same thing. I get the lazy dog is in bold. However, okay. Oops, I've deleted the, there we go. I was wondering why that disappeared. By the way, that's some weird stuff that'll happen in HTML. If you're missing a character, something like that would render, and you say to yourself, gee, how come that doesn't look right? And you'll realize you missed a closing tag or something like that. So I want to show you as well the difference between inline. There's also block level tags. So for example, div is a block level tag. It stands for divider. So we have a divider and where would you use a divider? If you're making some logical division of different sections of your page, which in the resume project that you're going to do for this first assignment is perfectly acceptable. You might have a div wrapped around your experience, and then you might wrap a div around your education experience, things like that. So again, so you would use the div tags, and that's a block level tag. Another block level tag is the HR. You saw how when I used the HR tag, it moved us, it put a carriage return in and did the horizontal rule. Another example would be the P tag. So if I put a P here for paragraph, notice that drops me down to a new paragraph. By the way, you always want to surround paragraphs of text with the P tag. When you do this first assignment, it's important that you use these tags that you read about in the book, like the paragraph tag and the EN tag and the strong tag, where they belong, and the H1 tag. So H1 would be the main header, H2 would be secondary headers. If you have a header within an H2 section of the document, you use an H3. Use lists, use the UL and OL tags. I'll show you an example of those here. If I do, I think we already had one, so let me show you the one we had before. So this one had our unordered list, and notice I've got my my little dots on there. But I can also change this to an ordered list. Notice they changed to 1, 2, 3. If I want to do something other than 1, 2, 3, we have an attribute called type that we can use. So for example, if I do type A, it switches to ABC. If I do type I, it switches to I, and III. I think I can do Roman numerals as well. So there's a couple of these you could look up. It's all in your textbook. You can see some example of these. There's also types for, so for example, the UL type, you've got the open circle, I think there's a closed circle, there's a dot, I think, or a dash maybe. There's a couple different ones you can try. But I encourage you to try to, use different ones as you do that resume project.